But then, because obviously evolution is a process, it's not a totally random process. It caters to its environment, but there is a level of arbitrariness to it, in the sense that we could have had 6 fingers instead of 5. That wouldn't have been an unimaginable consequence. That's fairly arbitrary. I think you'd probably agree.
Yes, with reservations. I think it's a bit easy to say something like that. I think you're right in that case, but it is possible that 6 fingers would have been worse, or 4 fingers would have been worse.
Yes, but it's also possibly not. Or
I think it's much more likely
yes.
to be a historical contingent accident.
So I'm interested in asking about if morality is something that's evolved within us and was susceptible to similar arbitrariness. Is the fact that rape is wrong as arbitrary as the fact that we have 5 fingers instead of 6?
I don't think so, because I think, once again, rape causes suffering.
But then the fact that we experience suffering and the fact that we call that suffering is something that's evolved.
You're being too philosophical for
We
me.
could call something else.
Yeah. No, I mean, 6 fingers versus 4 fingers or 5 fingers is not a question where suffering arises.
I see. I'm just interested, biologically speaking, is there a good reason that we should have evolved to experience suffering in the way that we experience it?
Well, I've just said the reason for suffering is to teach the animal not to do again what is just done. That's the only answer I have to that.
Okay, well, I suppose we can allow our listeners to make of that what they will. You talk about moral evolution in most of the chapter. You give examples of where we've progressed as a society. How can we determine? Because you do that in order to distinguish parts of our ethics that come from our evolutionary history and parts of our ethics that come from society. How can we distinguish and identify which parts of our ethical conduct come from our biology and which come from society?
Well, that's a good question.
Or do you see them as kind of the same thing, like all part of the process of evolution, whether biological or social?
I wouldn't say they're the same thing. They resemble each other. The sort of cultural progress which Steve Pinker identifies in The Better Angels of Our Nature looks like evolution in a way, and it is gradual and it happens progressively from century to century. The evolutionary foundation of it is possibly somewhat deeply buried in the cultural overlay. I think the cultural overlay probably is more important